Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cringy Movie Collection Podcast.
Today we're going to discuss
The Godfather Part 2.
My name is Ralph.
And I am Ludo.
And that was the intro. Let's go.
We're back in the 70s because this is one of my movies.
Is it like, because Ludovica is Italian and therefore she just has to watch Italo-American mob movies? Like, how do you come across The Godfather? I mean, not like it's an obscure movie, but...
When I was growing up and I started getting interested in films and movies, my dad was all like happy about it because he was very interested in movies when he was in high school, and he organized like the monthly movie night in his boarding school. And
But this was long before you were around.
Yes.
Okay, you made it sound like these were two approximate...
No, this is how I got interested in movies, because if you organize the movie night, you get to eat pizza when you go into the movie. Which is what he was mostly interested in? I think so.
Because I did talk to your dad about movies, and we talked briefly about Top Gun, and he said he just wants to be entertained by the spectacle and not think about it too much.
But this is Top Gun. But he appreciates a movie well made.
Okay, like Titanic?
Like The Godfather.
Well, but would you like Titanic?
I don't know what he thinks about Titanic.
Too sentimental?
Yeah, it's...
Okay. You know what's weird? You give like shout outs to like actors and directors and people that are supposedly listening to this podcast. You wouldn't shout out your dad?
Because I know he doesn't listen to this podcast.
Unlike Tom Hanks.
I started getting interested in movies, and my dad he really likes movies. He said, well, you should watch this movie. We should watch this movie together, and you can watch a movie that is... well made, not children's movies.
The movie was The Godfather Part 2?
No, the movie was The Godfather, all the Godfathers. No, okay, the first two Godfathers. And then I watched, and I thought it was a very cool movie, and I liked it, and I started watching more movies, and I needed to pick one for the podcast, and I picked the second one because it's my favorite of the three or two. Now Rafi is gonna tell us the synopsis because he hasn't seen the movie.
What do you mean I haven't seen the movie?
Well,
I've seen it twice.
To you. Yeah, with me.
So?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna watch it the third time.
Teenager. You mean that like it's
not
over?
Worth my time?
There's not gonna be any more Godfather in our future?
You can watch Godfather 3. Okay. What happens in The Godfather is basically a continuation of the original Godfather. I should have said what happens in The Godfather 2, because that's what it is. We continue kind of from where we left off. Michael Corleone is in charge of, I guess, his father's vast empire of crime. It's just a typical mob movie, really. So what happens is Michael is trying to keep all the plates spinning in the air, and he's got a big business deal with a Jewish man named Hyman Roth, and that brings him to Cuba.
Is it important that he's Jewish because it means he's not Italian? Or...
I think it's important in that sense. I mean, it's important to the story more so than my synopsis, I gotta say.
Okay.
It's not going to come back that he's Jewish, but Hyman Roth does not sound very Italian, so I don't know.
Yeah. Potentially Jewish.
Yeah.
We weren't certain if you just read the name.
Yeah. So anyway, the business deal eventually ends because of betrayal and intrigue, and not only that, but Michael ends up kind of having to kill his own brother, and all the while we also see some of kind of the backstory of Vito Corleone, Michael's father, whom we've seen in the previous movie as a crime crime boss. And in The Godfather Part 2, we see him as he kind of starts out in New York. When was that, in the 20s?
Yeah.
Okay. He's played by the man himself. Why can't I remember his name now?
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. And that's, I don't know, like the backstory stuff in terms, like if I had to summarize that, it's very simple, right? Like he arrives, there's a crime boss already there. He basically usurps his position, and he starts doing kind of the same racket.
Not really. He makes favors. He doesn't forget.
Yeah. But the point is, he's just, like, they start stealing things and then selling them, really. But then...
Oh, but that's, like, kind of, like, cool, because when Clemencia starts, like, oh, my friend has this rug, and he's just kind of amused by the stealing of the rug.
I think overall, the 20s stuff in, like, early New York... it's not early New York, but it's like early Corleone, is way more lighthearted, even though it's like the same kind of stuff happening. Like it's still people getting murdered and all of that, but the approach is much more lighthearted, it feels. And De Niro is really playing it with this kind of curiosity, like he's just
let's
there.
See what happens.
Yeah, he goes along with this guy who says, yeah, he has a friend who wants to give you a rug, and pretty quickly turns out they're just breaking into his place and stealing the rug, and it's like that is a pretty silly thing in this movie that's otherwise quite depressing, and so there's a certain difference between the backstory stuff and the kind of present day stuff. And by present day, I guess we're talking 70s. Because it's set in the 70s, no?
It's set in
the 50s.
58.
Okay.
Because there is a Cuban Revolution.
That's true. So we kind of have a date. Anyway, that's the synopsis. In the end, Michael is sad. I might as well just say it, right? I don't like this movie. I don't think it's bad, and we'll talk about why I don't think it's bad.
You didn't like this movie, like you already didn't like this movie when you saw it was 3.5 hours long.
That certainly didn't help, but like Titanic is 3 hours long, and I like that movie. So it's not impossible for me to like long movies, but it doesn't help.
Yeah, because it's not cheesy enough for you.
That's more like it, yeah. Like, this movie is what I would term as a mob movie, and that's a genre that's like... You kind of love or hate it, I feel. Like some people are just really into it and they love the Scorsese's and the Godfather movies and these kinds of movies. And then there's people like me who can appreciate how well made it is, yet it just doesn't excite me. I think what interests me is like, how come you enjoy these types of movies so much? What is it about them?
So it turns out that maybe I do like mob movies.
Yeah, in the Mission Impossible episode, you were saying like, what if this movie, like, the sequel was directed by Scorsese, who is another one of these movie brats, mob movie directors.
I think that what I like about mob movies is that there is character exploration and there is drama and there's psychological tension.
Yeah.
And they are not in a war setting. Mm-hmm. They're in an everyday setting, but there is a lot of tension, mm-hmm. and there is not usually like a big love story.
Okay. And you like the build-up of this tension, and,
yes.
and you imagine that the culmination of it might be more satisfying if nothing happens at the first few junctions.
I actually like when nothing happens
at all.
It's like, this is why I chose the part 2 compared to part 1. I think that part 1 is more like a more conventional mob movie. Mm-hmm. You can see more action, or even like from the main characters. While in this movie, there is not a lot of action. Michael doesn't do pretty much anything apart from being in a room,
which makes sense
staring.
As a sequel to the previous one, right? Because neither does Vito.
Yeah.
Like, now Michael is Vito, and so he's the one who is buffered from everything that's actually happening.
Yeah, but Michael was the center character of the first movie as well. So I like when, like, Michael is the center character of this movie, because I just like movies in which people sit in a room and almost nothing happens, and there is also like very little dialogue. Is a lot of like silent scene in which people are just thinking, and you watch them thinking, and you watch like, and you try to figure out what's going on in their heads.
Yeah.
And you don't really see a lot of stuff happening.
I sometimes feel like I'm too stupid for that kind of movie, because when we watched The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 for the first time, I had trouble following the movie. And I think it might in part be because people are not really expressing what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need people to say, I am angry, but I would like more than just a long shot of their face not emoting at all. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that's very typical of this movie.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of lingering shots, and it's suggesting they're thinking something.
Yeah.
But I have to fill in that gap in my mind, and I think I'm too stupid for it.
This is why I like books a lot, because you get way more leeway in like your interpretation of what's happening. So maybe movies in which I just see the character and I watch them just standing in the room, I can feel the gap as much as I would in a book, but it's nice to like change medium once in a while.
The studios were actually nervous about this because they felt The Godfather was in its own, like, sequels weren't really as common at the time. And so The Godfather, as this monumental achievement of film, the studio was like thinking, why would anyone want to see a part 2, to like an appendage, like, you know, that kind of thing. So in a way, this movie set a trend.
Yeah,
that
and
is
it
not
works so well.
Yeah, but it's not good, because most people that are doing this now are, you know, it's not worth it.
No, in fact, like, because this movie won the Oscar for Best Picture, and it was the only sequel to win this Oscar until The Lord of the Rings came. By the time The Return of the King won it, it was already full of shitty sequels, so...
So,
Yeah.
We have actually mentioned the Oscars a few times on this podcast, and I don't want to give the impression that we think that the Oscars are any gauge of quality.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like, I always use the Oscar as, like, a way to discover new movies.
Fair enough. If you watch The Godfather Part 2 without having seen The Godfather, what do you think? Would the movie work?
I think it would be very interesting to know the opinions about Michael from somebody that didn't watch the first Godfather.
If you only see him as a crime boss.
Yes.
Again, it would be kind of like Vito.
Not really, because Vito is committed to it.
Well, I think so is Michael. But, like, the difference is that The Godfather Part 1, let's call it just that, whatever, is not about Vito Corleone, whereas The Godfather Part 2 is about Michael. So we see that position looked at in more detail, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like, you can just write off Vito as a mob boss that, you know, is past his prime. But Michael is in his prime now, and he is, you know, at the height of his power.
But he doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah, but that's the
Because
point, isn't it?
The conundrum of Michael is that he doesn't want to have that life, and is kind of dragged into it because he has no other choice if he wants to protect his family. That is what he wants to do. Because even though he doesn't want to be involved in the mob, he still loves his family. And
but that's kind of the story of the first movie.
yes,
right?
And at the end, he becomes the new Godfather.
I think there's this scene where his wife sees all the other guys kissing his ring, which is like symbolic for, like, this is the Godfather.
Yeah, and but then we are left with the fact that he wants to make the family name clean. And it seems that at the start of the second movie, still has this drive that could be more of a delusion, but it feels that he had it. And by the end of the movie, he kind of lost all hopes and is just locked into that life.
So it's kind of the same again as in the first movie.
But more depressing.
Because we already start in the bad place.
Yeah.
But then it's actually kind of pointless to me. It feels like it's like the same movie again. Because we already knew that this is where he goes. Like, we don't need to see it. I'm kind of confused.
Not really. Like, you have a lot of experience of Michael being the Godfather, and you just watch him existing, and it's nice.
The question was, what would a person think that only watches the second movie?
I think that he wouldn't understand that Michael has good intentions.
Yeah,
I
because
think
they wouldn't know his kind of background, like how he got here.
Yeah, we get it at the end. I think that the end is very heartbreaking because he just killed his brother. He just lost his family. Is completely a godfather now.
Mm-hmm. And then we see like this flashback to a very early scene that was I guess it's set before even the beginning of the first movie, where Michael tells his family that he's gonna go to war, that he's enlisted, and the only person that supports him at the family table is his brother, whom he then later kills.
Yeah,
that is a very powerful scene. I hate the way that it transitions back to Michael in his chair. I think it should have just ended there. Also, there's a weird transition to like a train. Like there's a cross dissolve.
Yeah.
Which I guess is like him getting on a train to a war or something?
No, the train is when Vito brought his family to Sicily to visit his wife's family, and you see the kids being there and tasting the olives. That's the train that they got. I
still don't understand why you would do that cross dissolve then.
Well, that's a memory that Michael could have, and it's just like a family memory.
See, I think that's like, just end it in that heartbreaking moment. If you're going to do it, why show some random thing and then show Michael, who we know that that's what Michael is upset about. We don't need to see another blank stare from him. We've seen that all movie. Anyway,
I love Michael's blank stares.
I think it's a nitpick. Like, it's not a big deal, but I was very disappointed when it ended that way.
I really like how this movie is filmed.
Okay.
I like the lighting especially because there is a lot of darkness and then harsh lighting, especially just like highlighting the eye region.
It's a bit of noir style in that respect. Although it's, more saturated than your classic noir film, but it's fine.
And most of the time we see them from above, but not too above to make us think that we're seeing them from above. Just slightly above. Like, again, it's probably Al Pacino is not super tall, so
it's very noir film-making techniques. This movie was filmed by Gordon Willis, who did the other Godfather movies as well, but he also did some Woody Allen stuff.
I really like Woody Allen movies as well. I was going to
say, maybe you just really like... But do you like the Woody Allen movies for the cinematography as well?
Yes, I like that nothing happens and you see them thinking. And
so maybe you just like Gordon Willis.
Them. Yes, I'm going to check with other movies. And this is also, like, watching this movie makes me really interested in, like, the fact that, hey, movies are made. I never thought about it before.
This is what I, pardon, but I have to bring it up. This is why I like Titanic so much. It's also why I like a lot of Spielberg movies so much, because you can like kind of feel the choices and the decisions that were made. Like, it's not just, we got a tripod with a camera on it and people walked into the room like you're filming a stage play. No, it's deliberate, and you have to build sets to look a certain way so that you can pull this off. You have to make fake walls so you can put the camera in the wall and things like that. And in this movie, and especially in the first Godfather movie, there's always a way of putting into scene some orange, like, because that's a weird thread for the Godfather. It's like a symbol of being the Godfather is oranges. It's like,
you love the oranges.
Well, it's not just that I like oranges. It's also that, like, that's a motif. Someone actually thought about this and like tried to put a red thread all through these 3.5 hours, like things like that.
Even though you didn't like how Al Pacino ate the orange.
Oh yeah, he just bites into it like an apple. He doesn't even really peel it.
Yeah, I saw many people doing that.
Is it an Italian thing?
Could be.
That's
like, to me, it's not an unusual way to eat an orange.
I think if you peel it and then eat it like an apple, it's messy, but it's fine. That you can do that. But if you don't peel it, you get the gross peel. It's like bitter and unpleasant. Do people eat the peels?
It's edible.
if you don't have the pesticides. So, well, that concludes our orange eating tutorial. And we'll move on.
I like this decision, and I think that I appreciate even more when there is not a lot of things happening and it's happening in a room.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the set is very minimal. Like it's not flashy Titanic. They recreated this shit.
Yeah, like in a sense, you could take any room.
Yeah.
But it's also about building character based on what kind of room they live in, right? Like if Michael's office is going to look different from Tom Hagen's office. I feel Tom Hagen will be very Spartan, you know.
And this is very nice because it goes back to when Frank Pentangeli now is living in his house in New York.
Oh, you gotta help me. There's so many characters in this movie. I don't know which one is which.
Frank Pentangeli is the guy that kills himself slitting his...
the bathtub guy.
Yes. And when he goes
the
back...
rat.
Yes, but Michael is gonna go meet him and say not to kill anybody because he has a deal with Iron Rod. And he goes to New York, and now he's living in the Corleone's old house in New York. And you see how the room change, and you also notice how the room change.
Yeah.
It's
characterizing quality of the inanimate objects, and that's what you do when you're gonna do a character drama. Like you gotta put character into everything.
Michael has these like very recurrent traits. He also always rubbing his eyes.
Okay.
That's true. Like he does it continuously, and it's just does he express frustration? Is he tired? Is it sad?
Does he rub his eyes or does he rub his temples?
He rubs his eyes and then his temples.
Okay.
Or the temples and then the eyes. It always end up rubbing something. But a lot of things is the eyes.
Yeah.
It's sad and tired and discouraged and annoyed.
Yeah. It's not a happy gesture.
No, but it conveys all of this emotion with this one gesture. And we keep like seeing him doing more and more and more. The longer the movie keeps going.
Like it's getting more tired.
Yes, it's like, it's unbearable, this thing. Like, how can I do this? How can I get out of this?
It's also, like, this kind of, like, holding the side of your head is, like, classically in movies, it's a thinking gesture. Like you're saying, like, he's still trying to figure out a way, and no, he doesn't. I don't know where I heard it, but the Godfather theme I've heard... I don't know, as a baby, I don't know. I just know when I heard it that was the Godfather thing. Maybe it's because I have the video game, which is really bad, so I didn't really play it. But I'm sure even if you just make it into the menu, like you will hear the music. So maybe that's where I know it from. But other than that, I can say the only thing in terms of music I noticed in this movie is that Coppola loves transitioning into big folk music celebrations. There's like 4 or 5. I mean, I guess it's a long movie, so it's like spaced out still. But like, there's 4 or 5 transitions where like now the next scene begins, and there's just like a marching band or something. It's just like a big explosion of music. I mean, the first movie begins like that, but it doesn't constantly do it as much as this one.
Oh man, maybe it's just like it just can't help himself. I like the music. The music is by Nino Rota and Carmine Coppola.
Probably Carmine.
I read it Italian way.
Carmine.
I read it Italian style.
So Coppola works with his family a lot.
Yes.
Good for him. Whatever, fine.
He puts his family members everywhere, and
that's the family way. This movie is about family. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like,
do you think he's tied to the mob? Because when they made the
why you think that every Italian is tied to the mob?
Francis Ford Coppola is an American. Also, he's from San Francisco, not from New York, right? But like, when they made the first one, they had to basically appease the actual mob in New York to be able to film in New York. So like all the contractors working on the movie were probably mob guys. It's like, there's something shady there. How did Coppola, of all people, get permission to do it? You know, like, surely he has connections.
Or maybe Mario Puzo has connection. That is the guy
Someone
that wrote the book and wrote the screenplay with Coppola.
True. Someone had connections.
I know that you always like quote the people that did the soundtrack.
Quote them.
I don't know. You just mentioned them.
If I like the music in particular. But here it's really just the theme music. I feel.
Never really feel that you like Italian soundtrackers.
Soundtrackers like Ennio Morricone?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's also something about the era. Like, a lot of the film music that I enjoy and listen to is stuff that came out recently.
No.
It's not so much 70s soundtracks.
Oh, so just ageism better. I also like that Nino Rota wrote a lot of harp music. And when I was in high school, that was cool. I could play some fun things.
Did you play the Godfather theme on the harp?
Yes.
Bling, 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 bling,
Yeah.
bling, 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 bling.
There's a scene in which when Kay leaves Michael, she reveals that she didn't have a miscarriage, she had an abortion.
That's right. Tom Hagen, who is my favorite character from the first movie, tells Michael at some point that the baby that they were expecting was miscarried. And then later, revelation
Because
occurs.
apparently when she had the results that the baby was a boy, I actually don't think that she was sure. I feel, because she said, I felt that he was a boy. Probably in the 50s, they didn't have ultrasounds that could tell the sex of the baby. She didn't want to have another male being born in this family. And this makes me question my ethical beliefs, because I'm very pro-choice. And on paper, Kay had every right to do what she did. But I still feel that it's awful. It's awful. And I completely agree with Michael when he lashes out, because he feels that she does an abortion mostly to hurt Michael, and in a way that's the only way in which Kay can really get out of the marriage. But still, it's such a mean thing to do.
The intention behind this abortion isn't very noble. Let's put it that way. It's not about saving this child from a terrible fate, because every male child in his family either gets killed or becomes a crime boss. So, it's that would be reasonable, but that's not really the true motivation for Kay.
And I always hated Kay, and this is just the last drop. And it's what do you want here? Yeah, you're just so stupid that you didn't see it coming.
That's always been a bit of an issue with Kay anyway. She always came across as kind of stupid in the first movie as well. But maybe it's because we're watching the movie and we know where this is going.
You have to realize that when Michael says that in 5 years the family name will be clear, he really wants that. But you also have to know that he's a little bit delusional, and he's trying his best. And either you accept it or you go away. You don't marry him in the first place, or you don't have a child with him in the first place after the marriage, when you realize that this is what's going on. What kind of...
How long does it take you? So you just kind of hope, kind of like Michael, that it will get better. There is a sense of escalation, at least, because the movie kind of begins with a big hit on Michael, where they are in bed and then someone shoots through the windows. And that's something, there wasn't this level of escalation in Kay's life up until that point. So, again, then at least you should say, now I'm leaving. But it still takes another half a movie. I think it's obvious that there's kind of two movies here. There is the backstory of Vito Corleone, and there is the continuation of the story of Michael Corleone. And they're just cross-cut or intercut. And it feels like you could just separate these two and you'd have two sequels to The Godfather. Why do you think it wasn't done that way? I actually think that George Lucas told Coppola exactly this. You got two movies, just pick one and make that one. And I guess it worked out, so it's fine. But why do you think it is done this way?
I think that... you get very desperate with Michael and see that he cannot get himself out of this life. It's important to look at where Vito came from and how it became the Godfather, and how it's Vito is not a bad guy. He's not a mean, like he's not a psychopath. It's not like a mean person.
He's a bit of a drifter.
Yeah.
Especially at the very beginning. He just ends up in New York. Like, it's not like he
like
always wanted to go.
9-year-old.
Yeah, he just ends up there. And then he gets a job there, and then he happens to run into this mop guy and this other guy who steals carpets, and like it's just kind of.
Also, to be fair, Vito could be a terrible person and be completely like understandable, because when we get introduced to Vito, he's a 9-year-old. His father just died. His brother gets killed. He gets shipped to America after he has to
doesn't
hide.
His mother get shot in front of him?
Yes, trying to not make the kid.
She wants to protect the child.
Yes, it's like, this is my last child. Please don't kill him. Also,
yeah.
And it's just like, and the boss is like, oh, he's gonna grow strong and he's gonna kill me. Which he does. So I'm gonna kill him.
Although to be fair,
yeah,
it's like a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah.
Like, would he have done it if he had been spared?
Yes.
Like, he comes back to avenge his mother.
Yes.
Which was a choice that this guy made.
Well, actually, he came back to avenge his father, because when he said...
his family, then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, then he has to hide, not to be killed. He gets shipped to America, where he has smallpox. He has to... Smallpox.
Smallpox.
Sorry. He has to quarantine. Then he's a kid. He goes to Little Italy. He learns to live by himself, and then it just like he sees, oh, this is not fair. I'm gonna I want to be fair and stuff. And so he's not a bad person, but he has a weird life.
Why is it important to see Vito's? Because what I think actually is that this is the only part that's in the original book. In the second part, because that's the only thing they didn't do in the first movie, so they had that left, and that's why they did that. And then, but they also wanted to continue the story that they were telling, so they did these two things together. But I don't think that the contrast between these two characters is really crucial at the heart of the story that's being told. You know what I mean? Like, this is his father, and he had a very different story. But why not just tell these separately? Because this is already a sequel, right? It's not like we only have this one movie to tell all of the stories. So you could just do 2 sequels.
It would be very hard to watch an only Michael sequel without a little bit of distraction from what's happening to Michael. Because if I were Michael, I would want to kill myself.
Right.
So it's like, you need to get distracted, look a little bit of another story, and then you can go back to it. And
I would have liked it if this movie was just
only Vito.
Just fleshing Vito out a bit more, because we also don't see a lot of the stations in his life. We see a lot of important moments, and it's nice that it is that way, in the sense that it's more lighthearted if we don't see every quarrel he has with his wife and every moment of doubt and all of these sad parts that we see in the other story. But how does he meet his wife? Do we see that?
No, he's already married when we see him.
Right, we just jump an enormous amount of time, and then the mob life begins, and he has these kids, and he has so many kids that we know from the other movie, and it's like, you could explore that slightly more, and then you can still continue Michael's story once you figured out how to make it less depressing.
But the point of the movie is the movie is about Michael. It doesn't have a family, but it's still holding on to the family.
That's true.
So we need to see the family somewhere, and the origin of the family that is so desperately holding to.
But you could have done that with basically 2 more scenes like the one at the very end, and just cut out Vito altogether.
No, we need everything, okay? I would love this movie if it was 5 hours long.
Okay. No, I think, again, I think a lot of this comes from the fact that it's just this is not really engaging me as far as my taste goes. And so having this much of it doesn't really add much to it. Just give me 2 sequels, split it up, then I can watch it in one evening, you could do that anyway, I guess. But because of the structure, it just feels like you could have done that from the get-go.
Yeah, also we saw this movie on Netflix, and they still put the halfway point. Yes.
And it was after 90 minutes. It was almost 2 hours, and it's and now finally a break. You were excited to keep going, and I was ugh. And by the way, I've seen this movie before, but it's just so much.
I think that it has to be long, and I think that it has to be two stories, because this is really, it goes beyond the mob movie. It's more like an epic, but it's not set in Troy and stuff. It doesn't have gods and stuff.
But it is
warriors.
Like this royal family, so to speak. Yeah. Finally, a quick new question I want to ask that I think could be fun for the podcast in future. And that is, what's the point of this movie? Or in other words, what's kind of the main lesson if you had to summarize it in one kind of thing? Like, I have an idea, which is, this movie is a lot about power and about how power doesn't let you go. So it's very dangerous to strive, like, because everybody thinks they want to be in charge. Everybody thinks they want to have power. And it's dangerous to seek that, because if you do get it and you don't like it, there's no going back from that. And in case of Michael, it's not even that he really badly wanted it. He needed it. And then when he had it, like, it kept destroying the things he actually cared about.
I think that both movies are about, there are not really good or bad people. The people that have the power always do bad things, no matter how legal they portray themselves to be.
There is always a surface to every person that simply doesn't matter in terms of your moral assessment of them. Like, just because they look like, they're doing everything by the book. If they're in power, they probably did something shady.
And this also makes, like, actually, like, the people that do things shady and look shady, they're actually less hypercritical in some way. So it's kind of like a commentary on society.
Yeah. What do you absolutely love about this movie?
Okay. There is this scene in which Vito Corleone has just lost his job. Yeah. And he goes home, and you see just how, like, cute it is, because he doesn't go home and lash out at his wife because of his problem.
It's very optimistic.
He finds this beautiful pear, and he just surprises his wife in such a cute way, and she's so happy about this nice pear. I just think that it's so lovely.
And it's kind of whimsical in terms of filmmaking. It's like, who came up with this? Yeah. Right? This person clearly has an imagination. Yeah. Right? Like, or maybe it's drawn on life. Like, maybe someone did this, and they remember that and put it in this. But it's beautiful, and it's a little bit melancholic. Yeah. Because it kind of also, there's an undercurrent of poverty to the whole thing. But it's also about seeing the beauty in small things and about being happy with what you have, which is, like the American dream and all that. Like, it all ties into with this whole thing.
So nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah. My favorite thing about this movie is Robert De Niro. First of all, he's an amazing actor. And this movie, again, is star-studded in terms of the cast. And he still stands out as just like... He conveys so much. Like, I was complaining about how there's a lot of empty staring where you don't know what they're thinking. I feel like he De Niro externalizes a lot of, like, his attitude towards what's going on. And it's great to watch him, and him kind of, again, like we were talking about, like, ill-intense, and he becomes this mob boss, not because he wants to be a bad person, just because it worked out, like he was there and was, this would be good, and in a way he comes across as really smart, because at the beginning of the movie they suggest that he is stupid, he doesn't really talk and all that, and then throughout the movie we see him not talking, and that being a really smart move.
Maybe he's also autistic.
Yeah, maybe. So I love that, and the other reason why I love it so much is because I never really liked Marlon Brando in the first movie. I always thought it was comical. Then he talks like this, and it's like...
I think it's comical because you've probably seen a lot of parodies before seeing the real movie.
It's possible that it exacerbates the problem, but I still think it's like... Why is he lauded as such a great performer in that specific movie? I don't get it.
No, I don't think that, like, Marlon Brando in Francis Ford Coppola movie, like, perfect in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. So I think the better Vito Corleone is in the second movie,
Yes.
played by a different actor. And that's my favorite thing
Yes,
about the
like
movie.
Robert De Niro is Vito Corleone. And, like,
Even his voice is less comical. Even though he does the I talk like this as well.
Yeah.
But it's less over the top, maybe because he's like not as extreme because he's not as old. but still.
even though, as I like how he just emotes with his face,
Yeah.
I still prefer the blank Al Pacino stare.
Okay. That's fine. What did you absolutely hate about this movie?
When they go to Cuba and at New Year's Eve, they go to this club in which apparently seems that there is this guy with a mega penis that just
It's a weird
probably
like
rapes
S&M show.
something. Yes,
Yeah.
I really hate that scene. Fredo is having the time of his life, and everybody, like the senator having the time of his life. Everybody but Michael having
Yeah.
the time of his life. And
It's creepy, although I think
like
it's
so icky.
tastefully shot. Like
Yes.
we're not seeing gore or anything like
Yeah,
that.
we don't see anything,
Well,
but
it wouldn't be gore. It would be, explicit imagery. But whatever.
what do you absolutely
Absolutely hate how long this movie is. We talked about it. Like it's just too much. Like if it was, I don't mind watching a character drama every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my main, like you saw my collection.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the main thing I watch, but I'm not averse to it. And this is a really well made movie. And I think if it was 90 minutes long, I would get why people think it's one of the best movies ever made, if not the best. So. You can obviously keep the movie. It would be sacrilegious to suggest that you have to burn or otherwise destroy The Godfather or Godfather
But if
Part
it
2.
had to be destroyed, it's probably acid since it's a mob movie.
No, because you have no imagination, so it will be just melted in fire.
One time
no,
that
but
I
it's
had
not-
a good imagination. But it's not been destroyed.
It's not happening.
It's cherished.
It's obviously
it's top
fine.
tier movie.
I'm never gonna watch this again. I've seen it twice now. I think that's that's like 7 hours of my life.
Next time we're gonna watch another movie.
This kind of concludes the movie brat period where we've been watching Spielberg and De Palma and now Coppola. They're all kind of the new Hollywood guys. Now we're going to one of the new trends or the more younger trends in cinema history, and that will be Christopher Nolan and his postmodernist action schlock. And we're gonna watch Memento. Not much of an action movie. More like a psychological thriller. Might be more your thing.
Yay!
All right. That was the movie from 2000. And I hope you'll join us again
Yes,
next time.
and please remember to like and subscribe. Yoo-hoo! Bye!
This is a Super Mario sound.
Yeah. Wahoo! Yeah, mamma mia, we watch an Italian movie.
Let's go.
Yeah,
And now the music takes us away.
yeah.